Welcome back to the Deep Dive, the place where we take complex cultural threads, linguistic oddities, and stacks of source material and turn them into the specific, highly applicable knowledge you need.
And today, we are definitely navigating a linguistic minefield.
We really are.
Our deep dive is focused entirely on the delicate art of the British insult. Specifically, how you can tell someone that they are, well, a total idiot, a true buffoon.
While simultaneously preserving an air of absolute social compliance and politeness.
Exactly, that's the trick.
And that really is the mission today for you, the learner. This is your masterclass in mastering nuance. We aren't just looking at definitions.
Yeah, not at all.
We're trying to understand the cultural framework that actually demands this indirect approach. You need to know the difference between a direct statement and a well-aimed, under-the-table jab.
The kind that only those in the know can appreciate. And the source material we've gathered is fascinating because it really zeroes in on this core cultural tension. It highlights the widespread tendency in Britain to, beat around the bush.
Right. This idea of living in a state of constant fear of offending people directly.
Yes.
And that's the central paradox we have to unpack, isn't it?
Mm.
On one hand, society imposes this paralyzing fear of conflict.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens when someone's actions are so egregious, so fundamentally stupid, that the judgment must be communicated?
You can't just ignore it.
You can't.
But you can't confront it either. So the direct route is just abandoned.
In favor of the coded message.
Right. They deploy what the source called an under-the-table insult, which is perfectly disguised as a seemingly harmless idiomatic phrase. And this is brilliant because it gives you absolute deniability.
Linguistic camouflage, that's exactly what it is. If I call someone a plank and they get offended, I can just feign innocence.
Oh, of course.
I can say, oh, I was just using a common expression. I didn't mean anything by it.
While everyone else listening knows precisely what you meant.
Exactly. It's communication for the inner circle, but it's defensible to the outer one.
So we've distilled 7 of these key idioms, and we've organized them by severity. And we'll use the specific, detailed, and often hilariously catastrophic anecdotes from the sources to illustrate the exact shade of dimness being described.
We're basically moving from a mild cognitive lapse to profound, socially dangerous foolishness.
The full spectrum of stupidity.
Our journey starts on the gentler end of that spectrum, the low-voltage metaphors that imply a lack of cognitive capacity before we transition into the heavier hitters.
The ones that start to question sanity and fundamental judgment.
All right, let's get into it.
Okay, let's begin with metaphors of utility and function. These are probably the softest jabs.
Right. They suggest a component is simply dull or ineffective, but maybe not entirely useless.
Exactly. And the most universally recognizable one, a true workhorse of the gentle British insult.
It has to be. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed.
It's classic because it relies on that metaphor of tools. Tools are meant to perform a function efficiently.
And if you're not the sharpest tool, you're dull, you're ineffective.
Fundamentally, you're just not the cleverest person. The insult implies low utility when you're faced with a task that requires a bit of finesse or, quick thinking.
And the anecdote illustrating this perfectly encapsulates that failure of foundational utility. It's a very relatable scenario.
Mm-hmm.
It takes place in a lovely posh hotel in Berlin. The speaker had a simple problem.
The hairdryer wasn't working.
Okay, a simple, mundane inconvenience. The first logical step is to call room service, which
is what she did. And room service, doing their job, promptly brought a brand new replacement hairdryer. So far, so good.
Right. Seems fine.
But here is where the lack of sharpness, the inability to grasp root causes really comes in. The speaker plugged in the new hairdryer, tried it.
And it also didn't work. It also didn't work. Now, a sharp observer might pause here and think, wait a second, 2 brand new professional hairdryers failing. Maybe the problem isn't the tool.
But our not the sharpest tool person did not pause.
No. They called room service a 3rd time, escalating the situation, emphasizing that they were really, really soaking wet.
Oh, the drama, demanding immediate assistance. The frustration was real, but it was just completely misplaced.
It took the room service staff, the people trained to handle basic hotel operations, to finally make the connection.
They had to ask the most fundamental question.
Which led to this profound aha moment for the staff, and I imagine a deep realization of idiocy for the speaker.
So what was it?
The issue, of course, was that the key card hadn't been put into the slot by the door.
Oh, no.
Yes. That little slot is the master switch that activates all the power in the room. The plug sockets, the lighting, and yes,
The hairdryer.
the hair dryers. 3 calls, 3 separate deliveries of electrical equipment, and all that time, the solution was the foundational single mechanism that powers the room itself.
That is stunning. It's not about missing complex calculus or geopolitics.
Oh.
It's about missing the absolute most basic operational requirement of living in a modern hotel room.
And if we expand on the analysis of this metaphor a little, the sharpest tools are the ones that grasp root causes quickly.
And efficiently, right. The person in this scenario missed the fundamental awareness, the prerequisite setup step required to activate the entire system.
And culturally, using these metaphors of utility-like tools, or, as we'll see later, planks, it suggests that intelligence is primarily viewed through a lens of functionality and efficiency.
So if you're not functionally useful, your intelligence is questioned.
It's a critique of output, not just capacity. They may have the capacity to use the hairdryer.
But they lack the foundational awareness to make the environment conducive to that function.
Precisely. The brain just skips the most necessary setup step, demonstrating a serious lack of foundational processing power.
Okay, let's pivot to our second idiom. We're moving from the hardware store to the dining table.
Which is, she's one sandwich short of a picnic.
This one is just delightfully visual. A picnic is an assembly. It's a collective event that requires preparation and completeness.
Right.
To be one sandwich short indicates that you are fundamentally incomplete. You are, as the source says, not quite a full intelligence.
You're mostly there, but the crucial component necessary for success or comfort is just missing.
And it's a gentler way of pointing out a deficiency because it implies potential. You almost made it to a full picnic, but you failed at the final small step.
Almost.
And the scenario that proves this specific type of deficiency involves a miscommunication with a tradesman.
Always a classic.
So the speaker invited a plumber over to fit a new dishwasher. The plumber, being meticulous, texted ahead. He asked for photos and specifically inquired if there is a trap under the sink.
Okay, now anyone who has dealt with basic home repairs knows the plumber means a specific piece of piping, a U-bend.
Right. But our speaker, who is one sandwich short, interprets the word trap through a completely different non-contextual lens.
So what happens?
The speaker opens the sink cabinet, looks inside, and indeed sees a trap.
But not a plumbing trap.
Not a plumbing trap. It's a pest control device, a mouse trap, which the source notes had a lovely bright logo saying the words, "The Big Cheese" on it.
No. She remembers having this moment of internal amazement, thinking, how did he know about the mousetrap? Was I supposed to tell him about the mice?
She completely fails to apply any contextual knowledge for the plumbing trade.
And instead takes a picture of the pest control device.
And sends it to the professional plumber.
That is the perfect missing sandwich.
It really is. The knowledge base is incomplete because she knew what a trap was in one domain rodent capture, but failed to recognize the professional meaning.
And the plumber's response, as detailed in the source, was reportedly a confused stream of text laughter.
I bet. He had to gently explain that the trap he meant was the U-shaped water pipe designed to prevent sewer gases from coming back up.
And could he please have a picture of that instead?
The failure to perform a basic semantic distinction in a professional context just shows that crucial missing ingredient.
And this specific type of idiocy, this failure of contextual knowledge, is treated somewhat sympathetically by the idiom.
Right. It suggests that while the person made a mistake, they at least tried to fulfill the request. They just brought the wrong food to the party.
And this idiom is so structurally sound that it travels globally. The source notes the common alternative used in America,
which is one French fry short of a Happy Meal or one fry short of a Happy Meal.
A very specific, commercially branded reference that proves the core principle remains intact. A necessary component is missing from a predefined set.
Whether it's a sandwich or a fry, the message is exactly the same. You are functionally incomplete.
Okay, let's take a quick breath before we transition. Because if being one sandwich short implies a simple lack of completeness, our next set of idioms, they really ramp up the severity.
They do. We're moving from simple inefficiency to concepts bordering on questionable sanity and detachment from reality.
Yes, this section deals with cognitive failures so fundamental that they suggest an active disconnect from reality.
Which demands a far stronger, yet still disguised, critical assessment.
So time to step up the aggression. Our third idiom is to not be a full ticket.
Right. This is a stronger, slightly more serious phrase. It means the person is moving past simple foolishness and into the territory of being not clinically sane.
Wow. Ugh.
And because of this gravity, the suggestion of mental instability, the source explicitly cautions that one must be careful when using it to avoid significant, undeniable offense.
Let's unpack the metaphor then. What is a full ticket? In British slang, a ticket often refers to a set of required attributes for entry or acceptance.
Like having a full deck of cards or having all the correct items to be admitted somewhere. If you don't have a full ticket, you aren't socially or functionally compliant.
So a full ticket implies complete functionality and eligibility for standard societal participation. To lack it means you are missing core components required for safe navigation of the world.
Suggesting a deeper, more concerning problem than merely being dull.
And the incident that demonstrates this level of disconnect is profound in its repetition and its simplicity. This is the mosquito nets incident.
Okay.
This happened while the speaker was on holiday at their grandparents' holiday home in Portugal.
A casual, comfortable environment. The critical detail here is the repeated failure to interact correctly with a basic physical barrier.
The speaker walked through the mosquito nets on the door, damaging them no less than 3 times.
3 times.
3 times. After the first time, you might have been distracted, maybe reading a text. The second time is concerning.
But the third time suggests a fundamental, repeated failure of spatial awareness, object permanence, and just learning from immediate consequences.
This is functional failure at the most basic level.
So the family, after the third failure, had to concede that this wasn't mere absent-mindedness. It was a fundamental cognitive defect regarding physical obstacles.
And the solution they devised was so telling. They had to put up special stickers, specifically for the speaker.
Stickers on a mosquito net.
Yes. It's a permanent, visible solution to a transient human error. And the source notes that those stickers remain there to this day.
Wow. They serve as permanent physical markers, acknowledging that the speaker was not clever enough to just use a mosquito net properly.
And what's fascinating here is how the idiom is justified. The person is so far disconnected from reality that they require external scaffolding, the stickers, to remind them of basic physics and door function.
This goes way beyond forgetting your keys. It's a failure to register a large, visible, fundamental barrier.
The not a full ticket suggests that the person is missing the mental component that keeps them safely tethered to the physical world.
If you need special stickers on a door that is clearly a barrier, you are not operating with the full ticket of required mental attributes for safe function.
Exactly. It bridges that crucial gap between simple low capacity and a severe, concerning lack of engagement with the physical world around you.
Our fourth idiom leaves metaphor behind and gets brutally direct. It focuses on the sheer emptiness of the container.
Which is, there's not much between the ears.
A very direct description, meaning the person hasn't got much of a brain. It's less about a missing sharp component and more about an empty space, a void where critical thinking should reside.
And the anecdote illustrating this involves a spectacularly elaborate plan designed to avoid a problem, only to be utterly ruined by a massive oversight.
And it resulted in a permanent physical mark. We're talking about the violin camp escape.
Right. So the setting is a week-long violin camp, which the speaker was forced to go to. By day 2, they had decided that they had to leave at any cost.
So they devised a complex scheme of self-sabotage.
The plan was simple in its objective, but completely foolish in its design. Gently maim or injure myself, just enough to avoid playing the instrument and be sent home.
And the chosen mechanism for this self-harm was the bathroom door.
Which was described as being particularly aggressive, swinging both ways at a 180-degree angle.
Okay, so the sophisticated part of the plan, the part that required some thought, was identifying the aggressive nature of the door and calculating the moment of impact.
But the devastating brainless flaw, however, was failing to account for external variables.
The plan was to position the finger perfectly and gently catch my finger in that door, exaggerate the pain.
It was supposed to be a controlled, calculated injury.
But just as the finger was positioned...
Someone else naturally needed the bathroom.
Oh, of course.
They came through the swinging door with force, completely unplanned, injuring the finger so badly and so genuinely that the speaker had to go to the hospital.
And the permanent mark of this stupidity, a messed up fingernail that is just not right to this day, is the ultimate proof that there wasn't much between the ears.
The irony is just staggering. They spent their limited brain power devising this elaborate, unnecessary scheme,
but failed at the most basic variable, contingency planning for other human beings.
This is the distinction we need to draw, though. This isn't about being unable to think. It's about fatally misapplying the intelligence you do have.
That's a great point. The brain power was all used up on the plot, the how to get out, instead of the critical variables like, what if the door swings harder? Or what if someone else is waiting?
So if the person has enough cognitive ability to devise an elaborate plan for self-maiming, are they truly brainless? Or is this a demonstration of profound judgment failure?
I think that the idiom fits because the plan was ultimately self-defeating and completely lacked the common sense required to execute it safely.
It speaks to a lack of overall wisdom and environmental awareness.
Right. The failure here is spectacular and permanent, which fully justifies the bluntness of the assessment. There simply wasn't enough sense occupying that cranial space to protect the physical body.
Okay, moving to our fifth idiom, which offers a powerful contrast between outward appearance and internal reality.
The light is on, but nobody's home.
A classic.
Yeah.
It's used to describe someone who has a perfectly normal exterior. They look fine. They're functional. The light is on.
But internally, really, they're very stupid. There's no active thought processing, no internal life, just a vacant presence behind the eyes.
The visual of a light being on is so powerful. It suggests that the mechanism for awareness is active, but the necessary operator, the consciousness or intelligence, is entirely absent.
And the anecdote here provides a perfect physical manifestation of a functional shell with an absent mind. We're talking about the wooden castle incident.
The speaker was 9 years old, involved in the most dangerous of childhood pursuits,
Which is?
showing off in front of a group of younger children in a playground.
Ah, yes. A high-risk activity.
The ultimate show-off move, intended to impress the audience, was jumping off the top of a wooden castle structure. It's an act of pure physical bravado.
Demanding no complex thought, just simple audacity.
But the internal judgment, the nobody's home part, failed immediately. As the speaker jumped, the back of their jumper got completely stuck on one of the wooden spikes protruding from the top of the castle. Yes, and there she was, dressed normally, attempting a normal, if risky, physical feat, but rendered utterly paralyzed by a simple wardrobe malfunction combined with gravity.
She was left literally dangling from the top of the castle.
Completely dependent on external aid.
And the humiliation was compounded because she had to wait for one of those annoying little children, the very audience she was trying to impress, to run off and call her father for rescue.
This is the textbook definition of the light being on. The body was functional, it ran, it jumped, it existed visibly.
But the internal calculation for safety, gravity, or environmental hazards like sharp wooden spikes was completely absent. The physical action completely preceded and overwhelmed any thought process.
We can analyze this as a failure of inhibition. There was no internal mechanism saying, wait, what are the potential consequences of this jump?
The visible, functional exterior, the light, betrayed the complete absence of necessary critical thought, nobody home.
Which led to maximum visible failure and profound social humiliation, fully justifying the idiom.
Okay, we have now transitioned to the most severe assessments of stupidity. These last two idioms are either rooted in harsh social archetypes,
Implying the person is a known fool.
or they're blunt physical metaphors suggesting they're unyieldingly dense. There is much less deniability here. The intent is clear.
Our sixth idiom is brilliant because it leverages an established societal role.
Someone's village is missing their idiot.
This one is just genius because it avoids naming the person directly as the idiot, but rather suggests they belong to an archetype.
It directly invokes the term the village idiot, which historically describes someone known locally for their consistent, profound stupidity.
And by saying their village is missing them, you are asserting that the failure we are currently witnessing is so spectacular, so defining of that individual, that they must be misplaced.
They need to be returned to their designated location where such profound ineptitude is perhaps expected or, tolerated.
It implies a failure so spectacular that it cannot be written off as a momentary lapse. It must be a signature behavior.
One that requires a specific local context for that behavior to be accepted.
And the anecdote here is just high stakes, instant, and very public karma.
The new Mini Cooper car crash.
The setting is momentous. 2 days after passing the driving test, finally buying a beloved new shiny orange Mini Cooper.
The joy, the freedom, the new car smell, all about to be annihilated.
The catastrophic failure occurred almost immediately upon taking ownership. The speaker drove just 100 meters out of the dealership.
Before stalling at a major roundabout, which is, common, yes, but still highly embarrassing for a new driver.
However, the immediate embarrassment was not enough. The village idiot maneuver followed.
Instead of taking a moment, restarting the car, and moving forward.
And driver panicked, put the gear stick into reverse, and shot back at full force into the car immediately behind them.
This was not a gentle tap. The result was obliterating his license plate. The source describes the situation as dreadful.
It's just immediate, high-consequence absurdity.
This was so egregious, so immediate, and so profoundly ridiculous that institutional authority had to get involved. The police came to the scene.
And the new driver had to be escorted away from the wreck of their brand new car, 100 meters from where they bought it.
It's the failure of crisis response combined with the complete misapplication of mechanical function using reverse gear when stalled at a roundabout that absolutely justifies the severity of the idiom.
It goes far beyond a simple brain fade and confirms the person is operating at a level of incompetence that requires a local historical explanation.
And the tiny silver lining, if you can even call it that, was that the mother was 2 cars behind.
So she witnessed the entire thing, but wasn't the victim of the obliterated license plate.
But imagine the sheer, crushing public humiliation. That level of incompetence demands explanation.
And the idiom provides it. Someone's village is looking for their signature fool.
It confirms that some failures are so defining, they are an extension of the person's identity. The Mini Cooper was perhaps the first thing she destroyed, but the idiom suggests it won't be the last.
And finally, we arrive at the most straightforward, blunt, and completely unambiguous of our polite insults. The idiom that requires almost zero interpretation.
As thick as a plank.
If you were described as being as thick as a plank, there's no deniability remaining. It just means you are really stupid.
The metaphor is based on the dense, unyielding quality of wood. A plank is rigid, unbending, and difficult to penetrate or shape. It suggests an inability to absorb information or be easily processed.
But wait a second, if the point of these idioms is deniability and avoiding confrontation, why are some of them, like thick as a plank, so incredibly blunt?
That's a great question.
Doesn't that risk the very conflict the British cultural tendency seeks to avoid?
I think it does, but the source material implies that idioms like as thick as a plank are reserved for failures of judgment so immense that they shatter the facade of politeness.
So when stupidity causes serious real-world problems, the euphemism needs to be strong enough to register.
Exactly. The lack of metaphor is intentional. It signals that the person has moved past minor idiocy into fundamental mental density.
And this final anecdote provides that justification. A complete failure to grasp the severity of social and legal consequences. This is the school bus mobile phone crank.
The speaker, aged around 12 or 13, finds a mobile phone on the school bus. Opening it up, they discover very inappropriate images and videos of the owner, a man.
And the moment of profound idiocy was the decision that followed. The speaker decided this was a hilarious joke.
And proceeded to send those private, compromising videos and images directly from the found phone to their best friend, Felicity. The plan was then to go to school and act completely innocent.
But the plan immediately imploded because the consequences were far outside the speaker's frame of reference for a prank.
Felicity, quite rightly, was scared and immediately told the headmistress. The school, realizing the severity of transmitting inappropriate content, did not hesitate.
They called the police, who were immediately on their way in to interview everyone involved.
And the stupidity here is the failure to grasp that transmitting compromising private sexual images is not just a joke, but a serious social and legal transgression that warrants police involvement.
The density of the plank is exposed when the speaker realizes the gravity has moved from a playground spat to a police investigation.
Realizing the police were arriving, the speaker in their little tartan kilt, a perfect juxtaposition of childhood innocence and legal gravity, ran to the headmistress and confessed immediately, saying, "No, it was me."
The rest of the day was spent with the police, explaining the actions, the motives, and having the full severity of the situation explained to them.
And the source notes the police just didn't have any sort of sense of humor about the transmission of inappropriate content, underlining the fact that this wasn't a joke, it was a serious failure of judgment.
This incident just demonstrates a complete lack of basic social responsibility and awareness.
The dense, unyielding quality of the plank metaphor is justified because the person could not absorb the concept of privacy or legal consequence, leading to maximum official intervention.
And here is the fantastic final reveal that underscores the lingering impact of this specific plank-like density. The speaker begged the police not to tell her parents, which they agreed to honor temporarily.
And the parents were finally told about the entire police incident years later on the speaker's 21st birthday dinner.
That delayed bomb of a confection exploding 7 or 8 years later perfectly illustrates the lasting social cost of such a spectacular lapse in judgment.
The stupidity was so great that the consequences continued to ripple out for nearly a decade, fully confirming the bluntness of the idiom, as thick as a plank. Hashtag tag outro.
So, we return to the initial premise, the paradox of British communication. We started with the desire to avoid offense and the need to communicate severe idiocy.
And these 7 idioms are the sophisticated linguistic survival tools used to achieve that fragile balance. They allow for harsh judgment. You're functionally useless. You are mentally void. You are socially disastrous, without forcing the confrontation that traditional British culture so desperately avoids.
So for you, the learner, we can summarize these insults into 2 main strategic categories for easier mastery and application.
Right. First, we have the idioms implying mental incompleteness or functional flaw.
These are the gentle critiques, suggesting you were merely missing something, being not the sharpest tool in the shed, or one sandwich short of a picnic.
The implication is that you almost succeeded, but lacked one crucial piece of knowledge or function.
And second, we have the idioms implying total void, separation, or catastrophic behavioral foolishness.
These are the more severe judgments reserved for profound failure. The light is on, but nobody's home, as thick as a plank, and the powerful social shaming of having someone's village is missing their idiot.
These suggest that the failure is defining, not temporary.
And this analysis should be an invitation for you, the learner, to explore the cultural variations in your own language. Are there equivalent metaphors of utility or completeness that you use to politely describe stupidity?
We found the American one fry short of a Happy Meal. But what idiomatic phrases in other languages translate to stupid with similar layers of deniability?
The source material encourages us to consider the sheer creativity involved in these euphemisms. We see humanity's universal need to critique incompetence, filtered through specific cultural anxieties about causing offense.
But before we finish, let's return to that philosophical question that builds on this cultural tendency toward euphemism and conflict avoidance.
Right. We have analyzed the linguistic mechanics, but what is the long-term societal impact of constantly disguising direct, necessary feedback with these humorous or euphemistic languages?
When we call someone one fry short of a Happy Meal, instead of clearly stating, your idea is fundamentally flawed and needs total revision, are we genuinely being kinder?
Or are we, through this veiled critique, just delaying uncomfortable confrontations?
Allowing the planks and missing tools to continue their destructive behavior because the critique was too gentle, too nuanced, or too deniable to register as a serious warning.
The idioms offer a linguistic shield, but sometimes a blunt plank might be precisely what the situation or the person needs.
Something for you to mull over, the delicate balance between kindness and clarity.
Until next time, keep digging deeper.